somebody left a comment wanting us to talk about attachment styles. We do have a whole long episode with our friend Sky about that with Percy Jackson, but it's worth it to go through it again. The main ones, there's secure attachment, which is just if you're a nice normal person that doesn't need help. And so like if you're that person, why are you here?
Yeah.
Like,
How
you can
did you
go
end up here?
yeah, are you lost? Or you just want to hear what it's like for everybody else or something? I don't know. And then there's anxious, there's anxious, avoidant, and then disorganized. Internet is really mean to avoidant attachment people. Can you stop
They
doing that, please?
are.
Because it's not right. Like anxious people, the thing that people usually say about anxious people is like, oh, I just care so much. It's like, no, you don't. It's like how we talked about Cersei in season 2 of Percy Jackson. Like she says like, oh, I just care. I'm just so, my fatal flaw is empathy. I just care so much about people. That's why I know intimately your fatal flaw as soon as I meet. No, you don't have empathy for people. You literally set 2 13-year-old kids to die because they told you, because they walked away from you. And you felt like, she felt like it was punishment, clearly, that they would die, that the sirens would kill them, that she thought that was worthy punishment for 2 13-year-old children because they didn't want to stay on her island with her. Like the thing I said in our episode 5 like recap was like, she could have just asked people if they wanted to stay. That's the whole like anxious attachment thing, that you can, instead of just, you could just use your words. You could just tell people what you're worried about. You could tell people what you're thinking, and all of the like games you play to try to prove that people care about you, you wouldn't have to do them anymore. And that's the whole thing with Cersei. She could have just asked people if they wanted to stay on her island with her, and some of them probably would have said, yeah. But she doesn't want to have to be like vulnerable and take the chance that they'll tell her no. And so instead, she's made an entire life coach MLM on this island so to trap them there instead. Instead of just telling them that she wants some of them to stay with her because she's lonely, she could just tell them that, and she wouldn't have to like come up with all these ridiculous plans. And so the opposite of that really is, like we said before, people are way too mean to avoidant people because they're, like I just said, like anxious people are just as destructive as avoidant people. I don't know why the internet thinks that avoiding people are somehow worse, but the idea of that is avoidant is like kind of the obvious, but people who just like disappear, like walk away, like when there's something going on in their life, they just like disappear into nothingness and you just don't hear from them for a while. Or the thing that's hard about that side of it is it's the people that feel like that, because like I said, disorganized is the other attachment style, and that is basically a mix of both of them, which is the kind that I have, and I think that Percy and Annabeth would have disorganized attachment style, both of them. I think a lot of the kids in Percy would, because all of them been through a lot of complex trauma as children, which is how you end up with that attachment style, really, where you end up with both. Because the avoidant thing for me, like when I act avoidant, it's because I've convinced myself that that people are going to leave me, or that something bad is going to happen, that I'm not good enough to be around people, that like I somehow make things worse, that people don't really care about me.
That's me. That's all I am. I haven't spent enough time in your world to change that. And this was never my quest. I'm a danger to it.
And so I do that avoidance stuff where I like stop talking to people or like disappear, because I think that that's what I deserve. Like I love those people that I'm doing that to a lot, but I convince myself that it's better if I stay alone by myself, because then I won't be able to hurt anybody else.
Even before Luke left, you were the only one I could really talk to. I'm going to fix this. I just need to know how.
And that's what a lot of avoidant people are thinking. And yeah, it's hard when you're on the other side of it and you don't understand why they're acting that way. And to you, they've just like suddenly withdrawn and you don't know why, but
This-
that's why. Because they've convinced themselves that they're gonna somehow hurt you or have already, and they're just like trying to take control of that so that they don't have to be abandoned, basically. It's just a fear. Both of them are a fear of abandonment. Like, anxious people are doing it by trying to control it where you cannot get away from them. Avoidant people are like abandoning you first because so you can't be the one to leave them. Um, we were talking about this before we went live, but Luke from Percy Jackson and Thalia would have like abandonment issues, and Annabeth, because they all ran away from home. Like, running away from home like that is kind of like doing that. Like, you have abandonment issues, and so you just like leave them first so that you don't have to be the one that gets left after being like emotionally abandoned in that way. And so those are kind of the two. And disorganized is the kind that I have, and I do think that Percy and Annabeth both have that. Like, one of the things I think they did really well in this season was show her avoiding Percy. Like, if you're gonna say she has one, avoidant is much more of what's going on. It's kind of what I was saying before about
Yes.
Battle Labyrinth. People think that she is an anxious attachment style because she's decided that like Percy is gonna like leave her for Rachel or something during the course of that book. But and they say that Percy is the one being avoidant, but that's like actually acting like the things that Annabeth thinks is happening is actually happening when it's not. Annabeth's head, she's feeling jealous that Rachel's this girl that's a normal girl that knows Percy that she doesn't know anything about, because this is always my interpretation of Annabeth in that book, is that she knows that like Luke is about to, go too far with the stuff with Kronos. She doesn't know exactly what's going on, but they know that things are about to get really bad. Like, she in that book knows about him going to her house because that's already happened. And so that whole book, I feel like she's trying to pretend like Luke can still be saved, that she isn't messing everything up with Percy by defending Luke all the time. And so she's acting like Percy in that book is trying to do this like jealous game of being around another girl and spending more time with her than Annabeth, but Percy's not doing that. Rachel is literally just a girl that grew up thinking that she was hallucinating like Percy did, and then just realized that he can also see all the things that she can see and that she's not a crazy person, and just wants to talk to him because he's the only person she's ever met that can see all the things that he can see all these things too. And so she's not going crazy. And so she just wants to talk to him. That's literally all she wants to do in that book. She just wants to be able to speak to him and about the things that they see all the time so they can figure out what's going on. Annabeth is the one like cultivating this entire like thing happening between them that isn't happening at all, which is part of why like Percy doesn't think that she's being serious when she kisses him, and why he like doesn't understand why she's acting like she is for most of that book, is because he doesn't think that. He doesn't feel like that. We're in his head. We know that he doesn't. I love Annabeth, but she doesn't have a point when it comes to Rachel and Percy. Like, that's kind of the whole point of that book with her, is that she realizes at the end that she doesn't. That she's just insecure, feeling overwhelmed by having to be the one to be in charge of a quest for the first time and feeling like she can't do it. And she doesn't want to have to depend on anyone else. She wants to be able to figure it all out herself. And so when they realize that they need Rachel, she sees it as this like personal attack, when it's just what happens with every quest. Every quest, you can't do it on your own. You need help from people. It's just that she doesn't want to do that because everything in her life at that point is falling apart. She doesn't want to like admit that she's wrong about something, because then she could be wrong about everything. But like she doesn't is not like, because she has actually has a point.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say like it doesn't make sense to me to say that. And like they did a really good job in season 2 of showing that she stops talking to Percy because she's afraid that he'll get upset when she says that she doesn't like going to school. And honestly, that is why I feel like she has a disorganized attachment, is because she thinks that school is like boring, because there isn't like horrible things going on all the time. And basically, and that things are like relaxed, like she has time to like relax, and she thinks that doing like normal things, like fun things, is like less than, or that she doesn't, or that it's like boring, or it's not chaotic or scary enough for her, because that's the only time she's ever gotten like love or attention up to that point in her life, is when she's the one that like runs in to like save everybody. And so when she's at school and everything's just like a normal life, she's like, well, what do I do to like prove that I am worthy? And so she doesn't like it, but that's one of those things that I hope that the show does as well, is show that she does have like a place in the human world, that she's not all demigod the way that she thinks she is. In the same way that like Percy isn't all human and out of control and crazy, in the way that he's afraid he is during this season too. They just have different traumas that make them feel like that. And like honestly, the best way to describe how all of their problems is that Annabeth feels she does like the more avoidant stuff when she's like self-destructing. um just like avoiding talking about anything, and then blaming Percy for not being able to like read her mind somehow and just like know what she's thinking. Like he doesn't know. You have to say words or else he's not going to know. And in the same way, the thing that Percy does in an opposite way, he doesn't do like anxious really, but it's just his betrayal trauma, that he expects people to betray him. And so he's just like waiting for it to happen.
And that means we can't be friends?
And then that makes him like respond.
Bro! Did you know this whole time? But you said your mother was a naiad. You knew that. So how did you know that?
I didn't. Oh.
Don't lie to me, Tyson. Please.
No way.